Hi everyone, welcome to On the Other Hand. I'm Ariane Zurcher. I am continuing with this vessel and my black eye continues to stubbornly be black. We don't need to go into that. So it's exciting. I'm loving it. The hand stitching, I am coming to sort of I don't know if it's the last phase, but it's getting close. I'm really loving how this is looking. And so this episode, it's a lot about the hand stitching. I do talk about some of the issues that I know I'm going to be facing with that vertical seam. And but I'm not there yet, so I'm not going to get too concerned about it yet. So I'm going to turn this around and you can see what I'm working on and the different things that I'm stitching, that I'm employing, and techniques I'm using. But it's very exciting. Oh, and I have put some footage of my adorable Grandkitten, Loki, at the end of the video. So if you are into cats and want to see him, he is so adorable, you can at the end of the video. And if that's not for you, you can just stop and move on. I've been working away. I'm doing these little bouillon circles, and now I'm doing a little feather stitch. I've been using a whole variety of the number 3 Pearl Soft Cotton painters. And these are just wonderful colors for this kind of work with the dye of this linen. And so yeah, I'm just kind of playing around. I've done a ton of these little circles. I'm going to I use some cheesecloth. Oops. I use some cheesecloth over here, and I put some silk throaster from Steph Francis, and also those locks that I really like. I put that in here. I need to attach this, but I also did the running stitch along here, 3 little rows. What else have I done? A lot. I've been doing a lot. So I did some French knots, very loose kind of French knots here. And I'm just going to keep going here, working my way. I have done pretty much all of this. As I said, I do need to adhere this down, but all of this is now adhered. Oh, this was something I did. I pulled away the rice paper to reveal this crazy, linen that I had stitched on, and then I painted on it, and then I stuffed it with stuff, and then I took a sander and I sanded it, and it's got some really interesting texture. So here is like stuffing that's literally coming out, but it's covered in rice paper. This one this is stuffing that I then painted over, but you can see there's this at one point with some French knots and other stuff, so I pulled this rice paper away so you could get a better idea. I did that here as well, so you could see the stitching, as well as I did free motion stitching. I pulled it away here so you could see this, but I kind of love how that's looking with the so it's not quite so just white. It's a bit more subtle. And I'm just going to keep going here. I do want to pin this down, so I want to remember to do that. I'm going to turn this around because the feather stitch, goes in a kind of diagonal. So if you turn your fabric around, you can get it to go in different directions. So let's see. I've got this here, and There, we're gonna pull this there. Okay. So now if I go, I'm gonna go here. The feather stitch is always one of those, it's kind of like a brain twister. Or steering a boat where you have to turn the wheel the opposite direction of what you actually want. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna go here. And now I'm gonna go here. I'm kind of doing this big and loose. Let's see, now I can go over here. I could even use this little leg and come up. And then go up here. You know, it doesn't really matter. It's, and then I can go here if I want. I can go here. I can end it here and start anew. And I can make it small. I can vary the size. I can do a couple across, a couple up. I can do just one, you know, one up, one across, whatever it does, I want to. I can turn it around mid-stitch and go in a different direction. So I kind of want to go over here. But see how this thread is picking up all the same colors that are in this dyed linen, which I really like that. I can go up here now. I can go over here. And then I can come back and I can do something else in here over it, or put fabric over it, or some other material like, you know, rice paper or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Okay, let's see. I can punch something in, some throster. I can put cheesecloth. I can, you know, it's sort of whatever you feel like. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. I can add French knots in here. I can do some boyons. I can do some cast-on boyons. I can couch something else. Couching is great because you can couch any kind of material, you know, rope, wire, twine, anything. Okay, so here I'm going to go like this, and I think I'm going to keep going over here. I'm going through several layers of stuff. And I think I'll go one more here. I think I'll end it here because I'm going to now couch this down or tack it down anyway. I do like tacking this down in just a few places with different threads. It's fun to do it in the Aurora because the Aurora has like that metallic, and also it's kind of fuzzy. The Aurora thread from Thread Gatherer, that's always kind of a fun material to use. I want these locks to maintain their sort of wave, so I don't want to change that when I'm tacking it down. As you can see, I'm also using a Milner's, which, because I was doing those loops, so I didn't change. And then I'm going to leave the rest because I want this to be able to overlap this, whatever is going on over here. I want it to be able to overlap. And I'll bring more of those locks and add them so that there's not an obvious seam. I also want to do something in here just to secure the throw-stir a little bit more. It can be anything, but I think I'll just do, if you do a French knot with a chenille, just keep it really loose and kind of wild, and it makes a different kind of looking French knot, but I kind of love it. The sort of, see how much sort of wider, and it's not like a neat, beautifully executed French knot. It's really more of and if you do 3 or 4 wraps, and see how I'm not even pulling it, then you get this kind of other, well, if it doesn't do that on you, you get this other look that can be very cool, like that. I kind of love that. So if you don't pull it, neatly, and you just let it go kind of wild, you get this other look, which I think is cool. But you have to be sure that you don't pull it tightly, because otherwise it's going to just be a regular French knot. And you can make some of them more sort of wild and out there than others. It's all in how much you pull. It's like this one will be much crazier, right? Where you can sort of do a moderately neat. So as you can see, I'm doing like a 3 wrap. And like I said, I can go in here. I don't have to stay in there, and I can start going into over my feather stitch. You just kind of meander. So I think it looks kind of cool, and it adds texture to it, and it serves the purpose of adhering this as well. Layering materials. If you think of the things that you do when you do a collage, right? But instead of glue, you use thread. It's that sort of thinking. I'm just going to go in here. And one of the reasons to hide my thread behind here is just so that it doesn't get pulled into whatever I'm doing nearby, and then clipping it, just so I don't have a bunch of stuff that gets yanked around. Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep going with that, and I am moving over to this. I put more throster here, stitched random big long stitches here. I did a little fly stitch there, and I'm making my way over to this side, which that's going to be the last bit. And then I'm going to start draping this thing and figuring out how to create that larger shape, because I'm going to need to add to those edges that I went and trued and I shouldn't have. More to follow. One of the things I really like to do is to use whatever is going on in the fabric and kind of enhance it, right? So whatever might be happening, and try to go with that. So for example, here doing running stitches all along here, or maybe it's doing French knots, or whatever it is. But so here I've done a running stitch with my silk and pearl, and then I'm going to come back with this one, and I'm going to do, I think, a closed fly in here. And then I'm also going to take some other thread, I think this one, and stitch along here, and maybe do a closed fly in here. I don't know, just playing around. But I think it's fun to do that, and to just emphasize whatever it is that I feel like I want to emphasize with stitching. So let's see, I'm going to go in here. And then I'm going to turn this around. And I can go in here. And I think I can go around this little bit, because why not? I don't need to go around each petal, but I can go around this petal. I can pretend that I can see, even though I can't see what's going on underneath all that. And I can keep this running stitch going. And then I think what I'll do is stop here. And I'm going to come back up over here. Oops, no, it's not in the right position for this. Come over a little bit there. And then I can do my little running stitch here. And then I can keep going here. It's kind of fun to sometimes go over things, like, you know, I went over this part and then other parts not. So this is as much as I'm going to do on this little guy with this color. And I'm going to go down under here, underneath the bark. I'm going to let the bark go over it. And I'm going to tie this off, and I'm going to come back and start doing that clothes fly here. I've threaded up the black one. These are pretty close together, these little fern spiky things. So I could even cheat and pretend that, and just skip one, you know. I don't have to do every single one if I don't want to. I mean, right now I have been, but I could give myself that option to not. I don't feel like it. Like on some of these smaller ones here, I think I'll maybe do every other. We'll see. Okay. So yeah, I think that looks good. I think I'm going to come over here because it's a little bit less crowded. It's not as far away. And I'm going to continue. Here. This one sort of disappeared into here, so that's okay. I'll disappear the needle into there as well. There we go. Go into center. And I can end this knotted and start on top if it just feels like it's too far to go. But since it's right here, I'm just going to keep going. And I'll do, I'm going to do all of them like that. And then I'll come back and show you what I'm thinking for here. I've made good headway here. Pretty much the only thing I still need to do, I need to stitch this down, which I plan to do sort of now. You can see where I'm thinking, but I want to pull back to get a better idea if that's gonna look good. And then I have got this, which I need to stitch down, this part here. I have this piece of bark which I am going to incorporate into this piece, and it's going to then go off and wrap around to the other side. I have a few more things I want to do in here with my silken pearl. I'm going to add some more French knots over here and then have them sort of trail up. But then that's done. And then this piece, which I'm going to leave alone because I want to be able to place it once I've wrapped this thing around, and I need to stitch something in here to just adhere that. That's it. That's going to be, and then I'm going to drape it over the chicken wire. So let's see. I think I'll work on this right now because it's easy. Do what's easy. Do the easiest thing first, or the most obvious. Sometimes there's nothing that's obvious. This is my new stand that Martha, thank you Martha, sent me a link to and suggested that I give it a shot The only thing I don't like is that I have to push the phone way over so that because I want to be able to see periodically what's going on, and if I don't push it far enough away, I can't. It won't be able. It covers the camera, but it's totally doable. I've got it set up, and I'm not straddling tripods. I think it's close enough. You guys can tell me, but it seems like it's close enough. It's very stable. It's, I think it's good. It's a much better situation than that tripod, which was that was not working. The tripod's fine for when I'm doing the intro and talking to you, but I don't think it was so great for this. The only thing I'm wondering is it close enough? But I'll know soon enough. So what I've got going here is I did a bunch of French knots here, and then went ahead and did my running stitch around this shape. And now I just want to add this other color to this sort of row here, this kind of grouping, cluster, whatever. And I'm going to continue this sort of down like a waterfall. I'm doing this with a chenille needle, and here's why. When I want a really beautiful, tight French knot, I want to make sure I do this with the Milners. But when I do it with a chenille and it's looser, it just gives a different look to the knot. I don't know if you can see, but it gets a little more random. It's not this sort of very tight, beautiful French knot. It's a bit more wild. And for this, I want it to be a bit more wild. So, and because I'm going to be doing something in here, and I don't know quite what, but I was thinking it might be a running stitch or a seed stitch, I guess. And I want my chenille for that. I think this is really pretty. I like this. And this is just a way to blur this seam so it's not such a hard edge. Sometimes a hard edge is fine, but sometimes I want something that's a little more organic looking. So interesting to me how design concepts translate from one medium to another. So whether it's fashion, jewelry design, or doing this kind of work, there are some concepts that run throughout all. So with jewelry, when I was making these kind of large cocktail rings, they were large, sort of domed shapes. You don't want an obvious seam, and especially I was making these spheres, these cylinder spheres in gold. You don't want to have a seam around the sphere. You know, you have a half a sphere and then another half, and then you attach them. You don't want that seam to be obvious. And so there were all these different techniques that I would employ to ensure that there was no seam. And it's the same with this. When I put this together, I don't want to have an obvious seam running down one side, because as you turn the cylinder vessel around, I don't want to have one part where there's this seam sort of running straight down. And yeah, so there are different things that I'm doing. Of course, it didn't help that I that I went and trued the edges, but there are things that I can do like this and this where it's going to overlap. And then I can do other things like attach different things. I can couch some things over that seam, so it won't be quite so obviously a seam. Sort of punching thruster is always a great thing. You can do it with stitching. You can do it with other materials. I've also got some rice paper that I can add. So now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going up and adding to this. I'm doing a 3-wrap, very loose French knot using a chenille. And I'm going to go in here. Get some of the selvage that you're seeing. You know, this bit of white, that's selvage. I think this is my last one that I can get away with before I change thread. Okay. Here it is on the ground, and I am now going to construct my chicken wire and begin draping this over it and seeing what I get, and I'll go from there.
Loki. Oh, you are such a big boy. Oh, you are such a...